In today's video, you will learn how to create animations using the Puppeteer mode. You will also learn how to create animations using the expressions, poses and movement of camera to make your animation look more dynamic. I will also give you some tips and tricks on how to speed up rendering times for your animations and also how to resolve common issues that you may find when you're using the Puppeteer mode.
Hi, I'm Palmy. Welcome back to my channel where I help you to master DAZSTUDIO. Now if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss out on any cool videos that are going to help you on your journey. Having said that, let's get back to the tutorial right now.
So the first thing we're going to look at are expressions and how we can use expressions using the Puppeteer tab here to create our animations for facial expressions, which I think is really cool, what you can do in DAZSTUDIO. So the first thing I want to say is if there's any tabs missing, like the Puppeteer mode, you can't find it, or the timeline, or any of these tabs, what you need to do is go to Window here, Panes and Tabs, and then you can check out all the tabs are here. You can click on it and then you can dock it into the left side, right side, wherever you want to do it, and the timeline is normally at the bottom anyway of the DAZSTUDIO. Right, now that's out of the way, let's go and actually create some animations, facial expressions. So the first thing I've got my character selected here in the scene tab. I'm going to click on her head and that's going to give me this here, and then I'm going to go to pose controls and then I go to head and then I'm going to go to expressions. So I'm going to use the actual expressions inside DAZSTUDIO. Now I've got a lot of expressions because I've built my content library over time, bought way too much stuff that I didn't need to buy, but that's another story. So basically the ones that you have, if you haven't bought any expressions, are the ones, these red ones here. So see these red ones here? Those are the ones that are already inside DAZSTUDIO when you download it free off the DAZ3D website. So if I scroll down a bit more, you'll see more. So these are all the ones that are already inside DAZSTUDIO. So the first thing we need to do rather is we need the base expression here. We need something to go off our original expression, which is this blank expression here. I'm going to go to my Puppeteer mode here. I'm going to make sure I'm in edit mode. Now edit mode lets me move the actual nodes, lets me edit nodes, and lets me update nodes as well. So I'll explain that as we all go along. So the first thing is we got this like checkerboard here. It doesn't matter where you place the nodes on the checkerboard really, as long as you know where the first node is, because that's your base node. So everything's going to come off that. Otherwise it's going to look really strange if you go from one expression to the other without the base node. So I mean, you could put it anywhere you want, there's no issue. I just normally start at the bottom because that's what I normally do, but it's up to you how you want to do it, whatever works for you. So I'm going to put it here. So that's my base node there. All I did was left click and it just added that there. Great. Now I'm going to apply one of these expressions. So we could add, I don't know, we could add confident. So let me add confident. I don't know if that looks any good. Actually, let's do something a bit more, let's do fear. There we go. Okay. So I'm liking that. That's great. Awesome. And then I need to go and add it to my Puppeteer mode. So in this checker box, if I add this node now, rather if I add it, so there's two things before you add it rather. The first thing is if you add it very close here or wherever you're going to add it, if you add it very close, the transition from this pose, the original base pose, to the new one that we just did here, this one, is going to be very quick. So it's going to be very fast. So that is something you need to think about. Obviously, if you have it a bit further away, the transition will be slower. So it'll be more smoother, so to speak. So yeah, so you got to really think about where you want to do it. Now I would probably put it somewhere around here, and I would make sure I would put it into the correct place as well. So try to put your node wherever you're going to place it in the correct place, because unfortunately Puppeteer mode does kind of lock up DAZSTUDIO quite a bit. So make sure you save regularly as well when you're doing this. It's kind of a bit flaky, so to speak. When you're using it, it does kind of like lock DAZSTUDIO and then you have to start all over again, but make sure you save regularly. So I'm going to add it here. That's cool. Okay. So it's only when you're like editing it. So if I had to go here and start moving, say this node is in the correct position and I wanted it here, I could click on it and drag it and move it down here. And then DAZSTUDIO will take a while to think about that and it will do it eventually. And sometimes it doesn't do it. So you have to be very aware that yes, sometimes it will like lock DAZSTUDIO up. Like literally can't do anything with it. It will just crash. So I would recommend that you save your, save your animation regularly. So as soon as you add a node, make sure you save it. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. So if I go to preview mode here, and now I can actually preview. So I can left click on my first node here, and then as I go up, you'll see the expression change. So I'm going up, And you can see it's a very gradual change. Okay, it's very gradual change back and forth. Now, obviously, it looks like he's very jerky here, and the reason why he's jerky, the kind of preview here, is because we've got a figure that's got the textures on and everything. So obviously, it's gonna look slow. So it doesn't matter what computer you have, it'll be slow. The actual preview. If you use one of the generation Gen 8 dev ones, which have no skins on there, there's nothing on there, it's just like a basic model with nothing on there, the actual animation will be very smoother in the preview mode. So it doesn't really matter. This will be, when you actually render this out, it will be very smooth, because obviously we're going to do it very slow and we're going to add like loads of frames on there, which is going to make it very smooth. Okay, so I've got my first one and my second one, and then we're going to move to another one. Let's add a third one. Let's try happy, see what that looks like if I dial it up. Maybe not. Let's dial that one back down. Let's dial up happy now. Cool. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click here and have the equal distance, because I want equal distance about there. Oh, I'm in the wrong view. So I'm in preview mode. So obviously when I'm in preview mode, I cannot do anything but preview what's here. I need to go to edit mode, and that allows me to add extra nodes. Let me add that node there. Then I can go to preview mode, and then I can see what it looks like. So let's have a look. Go up. So you can see the mistake here. What's happened here is it's basically got the original pose. Then we've added the fear. It's still got the fear pose, and then it's added the happy to the fear pose. So you need to think about these things before you do it. Before you do this animation nodes, is what's happened is it's basically it's additive. So anything you had before, it will just add to it. It will add to it and then add to that, basically. So that's what's happened with this. So it hasn't actually added what I wanted to, which was just happy by itself. It's added the fear plus the happy, which gives me this really awkward expression here. So I made this mistake on purpose. Actually, I made it on purpose so you can see what happens. So you need to think about very carefully how you want to create your animations. So that's something to consider when you're doing it. So, okay, I didn't want that. So what we can do now is I can change it here, because I clicked on a node. This is what's, you can see here what's happening. So I can remove that fear node. I say, hey, I don't want that. I want happy only. And then now updated this the way I want the expression. I can right click on it and I can do update selected pose. Right. So when we go to preview mode now, it should work. So fingers crossed it should work. So I'm going up, fear, and then there we go. See, that's how we do it. So we fixed it. There you go. So that's how you would fix something. It's very easy to fix, which is a great thing I like about Puppeteer mode. As long as you know your order of your nodes, what you're doing, as long as you don't have like too many nodes here and you're going crazy, you should be fine. So here, up. And that is exactly what I wanted to happen. Perfect. Okay, so now you're thinking, Palmy, great. How do we record this? Cool. Okay, so what we do is just click on record. Okay, so the way this works is, as soon as I start clicking on the first node, this timeline will start going. It will keep going. Now what I want very smooth expressions. So smooth expressions means the timeline, we need the number of frames, they need to be very long. So you're probably looking like 100 frames probably to get a pretty smooth expression. So I would say a minimum of 100 frames. So I'll see what I can do here. So left click and I'm going to move up very slowly. And you can see the timeline moving as well. I don't know what number it's up to because I'm looking at that. We got to 200 frames. Okay. So let's rewind that. Let me play it. So there we go. We can see the kind of animation there. There we go. So it's got to about 200 frames, I believe it was. So that's going to be a very smooth animation because we're working on frames per second, 30 frames per second. So that's going to be very smooth. So I'm going to stop that there. So one thing I need to mention actually before we continue is you need to get the lighting set before you do anything else. So let's do that actually. Before you actually do your recording animation, always set your lighting. Now in terms of lighting, let's just go to the preview mode. Let's get the actual preview so you can see what I've done. Just bring it up. Shouldn't take too long. Okay, cool. So for lighting for animations, I would highly recommend you use HDRIs because A, your render time is going to be a lot quicker, and B, you get great lighting anyway, and you can use the lovely backgrounds as well. So I highly recommend you use a HDRI. It doesn't matter what HDRI you use, as long as you use one. So if I go to my render settings somewhere here, there it is, environment. These are just the settings, so that's fine. And the environment map, which is what I'm using. And the dome rotation. So set your lighting before you do anything else, because you can't... Actually, you can set your lighting, but it's very difficult and annoying to move your lighting at the different keyframes if you wanted to do that. It's not ideal or recommended. It's just best to have lighting set in one direction and the way you want it, and then leave it as it is, just to make things a lot more simpler. Otherwise, it's going to get very technical very quick. So this is my lighting setup. This is how it's going to be when I render it. The lighting's going to look like this. Everything's going to look like this. Obviously, we can change the dome rotation if I didn't like it for whatever reason, and sort out the lighting. So I highly recommend you choose a HDRI just for speed of rendering, because animations take a very, very long time to do, especially if you're going to do like HD render. It's going to take a very long time. It doesn't matter, like, especially now we got 200 frames. That's going to take at least 3-4 hours to do, maybe a couple of hours, I don't know. It does take a very long time. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's say, okay, for example, say I've changed the actual lighting. Say, hey, I like this lighting, I didn't like it the way before. What can I do to fix it now? So come out of Area Primo, go back to Texture Shaded. So how do I delete this, what I've already created? So what I need to do now is I can go to my Puppeteer mode. Here it is. I can go to the tool here, the option tool here. And I can go to clear layer animation. So clear layer animation. Okay, so that's cleared this animation. This animation now does not exist anymore. So when I press play, it's not there. Okay, we've deleted that whole animation. So we need to start again. So again, I will do record. I will start here. Make sure it's at 0, obviously. So use this one here to take it back to 0. It's a mistake I made a lot while I was doing this tutorials, doing the actual practicing with it. I forgot to do the rewind button to go to the beginning. So I was starting from like frame 70, not realizing that this was actually not at frame 0. So I'm going to click here and let's record it again. So very slow-ish, get that smooth animation, and I'm happy with it now. So I've got it to 160-ish. So let's rewind it here. Let's play it. Let's have a look. Okay, that looks good. Great. Fantastic. Okay, I'm happy with that. And we've got the new lighting to go with it as well. Okay, so that is done. Let's say I'm happy with my expressions. Obviously, you can go in and go the individual settings here and, you know, turn these up and down and then record them in here if you wish to do so, or create some more nodes. So I'm not going to do that now because otherwise the tutorial will be very long. I want to get through as much as possible to give you value and give you as much information as I can, so you can take that on board and start executing straight away with these skills. So we've done that. How do we render? So we go to our render settings here. There we go. We go to render mode. Sorry, not render mode. We go to general first. So the first thing I recommend is your pixel size here. I've got it 500 by 500 because if I went to HD, it would take a very long time to render, especially if you've got a slow computer. Even though my computer is, I'd say, it's medium. It's not like the best, but it's good enough. And it does still take a while to render. So I would recommend that you have a small size of your window ratio here, very small. If you're going to do HD, then be prepared to leave it on overnight because it will take that long if you wish to do so. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is render type. You want to change that to image series. You don't want to do movie, you want to do image series, because with the image series, what we can do is we can then take that into another programs. Basically, it will save each individual frame here, all these are frames here, as a JPEG. Sorry, not JPEG, PNG or JPEG, whatever you want to choose here. You can choose what you want. Normally it's PNG as a default. And then you can take it into your favorite photo editing software or GIMP or Photoshop, and then you create a GIF using that. Or what I do is I use Shotcut to do it, to create my video files. And I'll show you how I do that in Shotcut as well. And over here then, we can choose the render range. So start from frame 0, end on 206. Well, that's not true. We don't want to go 206. I believe it was somewhere like 160. So let's just try that now. Yeah, I think it's like 160. So here I would type in 160. And then you would choose where you want to save it. So your series path. Where do you want to save this series of animations? You may not want to save it in your render library because it will create like 160 of these frames, 160 images. So the best thing to do is create a separate folder like I did animation, and then you would create additional folders related to that. So it's going to go in there, my animation folder and number 1 folder, and I'm going to call this expressions. We'll call it expressions. Okay, and then all I would do is click render, and I will do that now. Actually, before we click render, you can go into the progressive render mode, progressive rendering mode here, and you can put the max samples up if you want to. Obviously, if you increase this, the more time it's going to take to render each frame, and you can obviously increase the quality if you want to, but the more time it's going to take to render as well. So you have to be very careful of what you want to do. Technically, really, you wouldn't want to have like crazy quality on animations because it just takes far too long to do. Especially if you want smooth animations, it's going to take a very long time. And the other thing was filtering. If you want the denoiser on, so I definitely recommend you put these settings on, post denoiser, and enable it on. So basically, there's no like noise on your renders. It's very smooth. So I highly recommend you do that as well. So I hit render. I'll just show you what happens. So I hit render. So it's going to render frame 0 all the way up to 160, but we're not going to go that far. I'm not going to go all the way because it's going to take far too long even on my machine. So I'll just give it a second to kick in. So basically it's just like it's rendering a normal image that you would do in DAZSTUDIO, a normal scene, but instead of rendering one scene, it's rendering 160 scenes. So you can imagine it's going to take a very long time. Even if it takes like a minute to do one frame, that's 160 minutes. That's still very, very long. You're not going to sit in front of your computer for 160 minutes. You're going to leave that to run overnight or whatever. Or you could carry on doing something else on your computer while it's doing that. So at the moment, what's it taking? 44 seconds, 45 seconds. It's going to take about a minute, I think, just to do the first frame. Let's have a look. Okay, remember this is at 500 pixels by 500 pixels. If I did like a HD render, you can imagine how long it's going to take. So it took about a minute to do one frame. So I'm not going to sit here for 160 minutes while it's doing that. So I'm going to hit cancel. But you get the idea of how it works now. So it will just render each frame by itself, and you just kind of leave your computer to it, really, and come back an hour or 2 later, 2 hours later, really. So cancel there. Okay, so the way that looks in here is if I go to my animation folder, go to number 1. Let's see where it is. It's only done one frame. I'll just show you what I've done recently. So you can imagine like here's the frames. Let me just do by name. These are the ones I've done already. So you can imagine like this is the first one here. So it's done all these frames. So it basically does PNG files, and as long as how many frames you have, it does that many PNG files. So you can imagine how long it takes here. I can't remember what this is. Okay, it's that one there. So that's why it takes a very long time. It literally renders each frame. It just takes a very long time. Okay. So that's cool. We've done that there. What I want to do now, before I show you how I create it inside Shotcut, which is the free program on Windows, which is what I use to do all the editing here on my YouTube videos. I want to show you how we do the same thing with poses, with preset poses, and how we do it with camera movement as well. So I'm going to give you as much information as possible. So here we are, number 2. This is where we're going to do an animation using the preset poses that we've got here on the left. Now I've got a lot of poses, so I'll try and choose the default ones that come with DAZSTUDIO as best as I can for what I can remember what they look like. This character looks a bit different because this is the Genesis 8 male development figure, meaning there are no textures on it or anything like that. It's like a base, very, very basic version of a Genesis 8 figure. And this is what you would use normally for if you were going to do sculpting and things. You would take that into your ZBrush, or if you're going to create clothing, then you would take this into Marvelous Designer and then you would add the clothing, etc. So this is what you would normally use. The reason why I'm using this is because I want to show you when we do the preview mode how smooth it is, and just to show you the difference, that actually the only reason why the previous one that we did with the expressions was very jerky is because the previous one had a lot of textures. This one has no textures and it's super smooth. Okay, so let me see if we can find this is our base pose first of all. This is going to be my base pose actually. So I'm going to do, again, edit mode. I'm going to just click somewhere here. There's my base pose. Right, let me see if I can find a DAZSTUDIO one that's already in. So I've got loads here. Okay, so these here, these ones here with the kind of they look like the Daz base figure is actually, these are the ones that come with the default. So I'll use these because everybody has these. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to go from the standing position here to say this kneeling one here. So I'm going to double click here, wait for that to apply. And then I'm going to add it here as well. So I'll add it, I think I'll add it up here. There we go. Okay, so I'll go to my preview mode now. I'm going to click here and I'm going to drag it up. You'll see it's going to be super smooth. Okay, so the only reason why it's super smooth is because there are no textures on there. So there we go. So there we go. So that's our animation is going from here to here. Now, obviously it's not perfect. What you need to do is tune everything. So in between here, you would probably have another node just to clean up the animation, because at the moment he's kind of like going forward, which is kind of weird, and then coming down here. So you need to have like almost like a transitional pose in between these two to kind of clean up the animation a bit. I'm not going to do that right now because it's going to take far too long, but I'm sure you can work that out yourself. But again, I would record it. So click the record button here. Then I will go for the bottom here and I go very slow. I want super smooth. There we go. Again, 120, you're going to be around about 100 frames to get a decent smooth animation, which will only be about 3 to 5 seconds long. So if you want to do more, you would have to do more frames. And obviously more frames mean more rendering time. That choice is up to you. So let's rewind it here. Let me do play, see what it looks like. So as you can see, super smooth. Just like I said, because it's got no textures, and you can see the animation here. This looks really good. I like it a lot. So as you can see with the poses, it's very easy to do. You could do the same thing. We could add another pose, so you can go from here to say sitting down. So let's try that. So let me just rewind this. Let me clear the animation. Clear layer animation. Cool. And let us go from that one to say, which one was it again? The sitting pose. That's the one I was talking about. There we go. And I'm going to add that over here. Nope. It's the wrong one. Edit mode. Always forget to go in edit mode. Make sure you're in edit mode. Right, so let me just clear that animation. Clear the animation. Cool. Okay, so we're at the beginning. Let me just do the preview. Let's see if this does it the right way. So it's going to that one. Then it's going to go to this one. And I can't see him. He's gone off the screen. So as you can see, that pose is not correct. What's happened is added to it, and I didn't want to add to it. So in this case, what I would do is click here, because I wanted to, so we just click here and I'll wait for DAZSTUDIO to kind of understand what I'm trying to do. So this is what happens is when you're trying to edit poses, it gets very frustrating with Puppeteer mode, especially if you have a lot of nodes. It starts to think about doing things, and it takes a very long time for it to kind of adjust to what it's supposed to be doing. So I've clicked on here. I'm waiting for it to actually accept that. There we go. So let me see what the problem is. It's going here and then it's going to this one here. So again, what's happened is it's additive. It's an additive process. So it's taken that one, added it to that one, then it's gone from this one, added to that one, and therefore we've got this really strange pose here where things have gone absolutely wrong. So what I need to do now is recorrect that pose. So I need to go to this one here. Not this one, it was this one here, wasn't it? There we go. And then I right click and then I would do update selected pose. So let's go to preview and let's see what that looks like now. Up. And there we go. Looking very sophisticated there with his movement. There we go. All right. And again, we can record that. Go here. Start recording. There we go. So let me rewind that now and press play. Okay. So as you can see, there's some sort of issue here with his hand coming in the way. It's going through his leg. So again, what you would need to do is you would need like a transitional pose. So you would probably need another pose in here. where when you get to this section here and actually say, hold on a minute, I need to change that. So we could do that right now. So if we go to preview mode, where is it exactly where he does that? So he does that around about here. Actually, I want the arm to go outside. So here you would probably, when he gets to about there. So here, what you would do is you would need a transitional pose here. So you would, I would click on his arm here and go to parameters. And I want to move it out a bit more. So bend, not the bend, sorry. I think it's this one here. Twist a bit more. I believe it's one of these. There we go. Okay, I want to move it out there. So that would be my transitional pose. So basically I would go back to my Puppeteer mode and I would add it here. In my edit mode, I would add it over here. Okay. So let's see what that does. Click here, check the preview. And there we go, we fixed it. So that's what you need to do when I mean transitional pose. In between that one, I told to go outside around and then it's just gone into that natural position where it should do. So it's not going through the arm. So that's how you would fix it if you're going to fix any poking where the arm goes through body parts, which doesn't happen in real life. Obviously our arms and legs don't go through each other. They get stuck. So that is one way you can fix it. So that's just something you need to play around with as you're doing the animation. So the final thing we're going to look at is the camera. How can I move the camera around to make it look more dramatic, make it more action movable instead of a static pose? Right, so we're going to add the camera to this now. So I'm going to rewind this. I want it at 0 frames. So I'm going to bring it here. So at the moment, use my perspective view. I don't want that. I need to create a camera. So create new camera. I want to copy that position of the perspective view. Cool. And go to camera here. Right. So we can do this in two ways. What we can do is we can create nodes here. So again, I can say, for example, I'm going to move here. Expression on his, actually not expression on his face because nothing happens on his face. Let's just move in a bit closer, a bit tighter shot. There we go. So there's my first one. So edit mode, I want it here. And then my next one is going to be a bit more further out. Oops, a bit more further out. Here we go. And I'm going to put it here. And then my next one, I'm going to zoom in because I know it's going to be somewhere around here. Somewhere around here, I believe. And then I'm going to zoom in here. And then again, you can do preview mode and you can see with the camera, right, it's going to move in, down, there. That's exactly what I want to happen. Okay. And then when you do record, it will start recording with this. Okay, and you can see here, these are keyframes here for the camera telling exactly what to do. That's what these kind of triangles are. So let me just rewind this. So it's a bit more dynamic animation where the camera is moving in and out, makes it look a bit more different. So that's kind of cool. Obviously this way is not the best way. I'll show you another way how to do it. So that's a way where you have to kind of guess, a bit of guesswork as the animation is going where you want things. Okay, so we've got all these keyframes here. I don't want them anymore. How do I get rid of it? So I'll click on my camera here. I'll go to my timeline. There's a little option button here. And then I can go to clear animation and clear it for this item. So for this camera, I want you to clear all the keyframes. All right, all the keyframes are gone. And my camera's gone to the default position as well. So I need to just bring that back up. Okay, so here's the other way of doing it. It's literally to add keyframes. So my first keyframe is going to be, say it's going to be like this, a bit of a tight shot. So here I would do here, the plus here, add a keyframe. Okay, so I've got my keyframe here for my camera. My first keyframe, that's where I wanted it. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to scrub the kind of like timeline. And where do I want my next camera to be? Probably to be, well, it's already moved it here. Yeah, probably be about, move it down a bit. So my keyframe is here. Okay, keep going. Actually, I wanted to zoom in now because I wanted to get a closer shot of this. So here, And then what I'm going to do is keep scrubbing the timeline. Okay, where does he get to? He gets to about there, and I want it to be there. There you go. And as you can see, as I position the camera, the keyframes are being created. So we've got keyframe here, here, and here, and here. So as I rewind now, as we rewind, the camera will move with it. Press play. Here's my camera. Okay. Looks more dynamic now, our animation. The camera's moving with it. It doesn't look as bad. So there's a slight glitch here. You can see something happens. I think the hand still goes through the leg. Yep, the hand goes through the leg for whatever reason. I think we need to re-record that, but that's fine. So this is what you can do with the camera movement. You just add keyframes. I think that's the best way to do it instead of using the actual Puppeteer mode here. I don't think it works very well. So one more thing I want to show you is how I use Shotcut to create the animation. So I can right click here, create a new video. I'm going to open these files now. So make sure that the files are in numerical order first. So this is one I've done earlier. As you can see, there's like 150 frames. So that took a very long time to do. I left this overnight actually, because it's actually a HD one. So I left it on overnight on my computer. So basically these are in numerical order. So I'm going to go from 00, which is the first frame, all the way to the bottom, shift, highlight all those, open. And then they will open in the correct order inside Shotcut. I was about to say inside DAZSTUDIO, inside Shotcut. I'm going to select the first one, and then I'm going to go all the way to the bottom of this, shift, and then select the bottom one, and then I'm going to click on it and drag it into my timeline, into my video timeline. I'm going to click it here. Now it's going to take a while for it to put it into the timeline. It will do. It doesn't take as long as DAZSTUDIO does to go from one node to the next node. Shotcut's pretty good. But the background was a HDRI here. This lighting is all HDRI, nothing fancy, because it's just way quicker to do it. Okay, so what I would do now is I would Control and A to select all the 150 frames, so to speak. I will go to Properties here, and here we've got Image Sequence, and I will just tick that. Okay, so what it's going to do now is going to put all those together and create the image sequence. So we can have a look at the image sequence. So if I rewind this, do play, there's the image sequence. Now the reason why it's jerky is because obviously it's HD and it's very, very slow, but this is not the way it rendered out. I'll show you very quickly. On my desktop, is it on my desktop here? I think it's this one, Anim2. You can see how smooth it is. This is how smooth it does render when you do it. Okay, so it's very smooth. I've done the camera here, which is exactly the same thing I showed you here. The camera moves in and out to make it more dynamic animation. I've got the posing here. So this is the preset pose I've done. There's some expressions here. So all I've done is everything I've taught you so far, I've just put it all together in one, and I've created this animation.
Okay, so there you go. That is how you create animations inside DAZSTUDIO. Now, animations is not my specialty, but I thought I'd give it a go to show you how easy it really is inside DAZSTUDIO to create animations. Now, for those of you that stick to the end of the video, thank you very much for this. It helps the channel out a lot very much. And especially to you, Benny Oaks, for leaving this wonderful comment here. I'll put it here somewhere. The first hashtag dream I've got, so fantastic. So if you wanted your comment to be featured in next week's video, leave a hashtag dream in the comments down below to show everybody that you're serious about reaching your dreams. And having said that, I'll see you in next week's video.